Привет, I'm Tatiana and this is my brother Sergey and we are in Ijevsk, the capital of Udmurtia, one of the republics of the Russian Federation. And from here, we are starting our trip across Russia. In order to see the biggest country in the world, we will have to visit 2 continents, fly over 6,000 miles, and cross 11 time zones. Are you ready? Then let's go! We are going to start from the beginning, where Russia begins, Königsberg, or as it's known now, Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad is unique because the city is a Russian enclave located between Poland and Lithuania, in the westernmost regional center of Russia on the Baltic coast. It is a city with a Prussian accent. The walls of this city have witnessed many historical events, both good and tragic. After the Second World War, most of the historical and residential buildings of Prussian architecture could not be restored, and all the surviving bricks from the destroyed buildings went to the restoration of buildings in the Soviet Baltic. Until 1945, Kaliningrad was the Prussian capital, where Immanuel Kant lived and worked, as well as Hoffmann, the author of the famous Nutcracker, where, by the way, the main character Marie enters a fairy tale world through a wardrobe for the first time in literature, not in Narnia as many people think. Kaliningrad is connected to the open sea by a canal. For Russia, it is a strategically important city that gives access to the Baltic. Kaliningrad is the amber capital of Russia, where about 95% of the world's amber reserves are located. Some of the amber is about 50 million years old. By the way, it was here where the famous Amber Room was created, which was given to Peter I as a gift. And now the Amber Room is in St. Petersburg, where we're going next. From one coast of the Baltic, we go to the other. This is where Peter's dream became a reality. Our next stop is the northern capital of Russia, St. Petersburg. This city has changed names several times over its 300-year history. But now many people call it Peter. This city is often compared to Venice and called the Venice of the North because of its many beautiful bridges, canals, and magnificent fountains. St. Petersburg is known for its dazzling palaces, museums, history, architecture, fine arts, ballet, and music. St. Petersburg is also called the cultural capital of Russia. I think it's not hard to guess why. We can talk about St. Petersburg as much as any big city. One thing is clear: everyone should visit the city at least once. And after this lyrical introduction to St. Petersburg, I want to mention a few facts about the 8th wonder of the world, the Amber Room, which is located in one of the palaces in the outskirts of St. Petersburg. Amber panels were made in Königsberg and were presented to Peter the Great by the Prussian king. At the beginning of World War II, it was decided not to relocate the Amber Room to a safe place because of its fragility. But in 1941, the Germans came and took off the canvases in 2 days. They were taken to Kaliningrad. There, in 1945, the Amber Room disappeared forever. The creation of the new Amber Room took over 20 years with financial support from Germany, and in 2003, the Amber Room returned to the Catherine Palace. And we are on the road again. From the northern capital, we are flying to the official capital of Russia, Moscow. I think not only for me and many Russians, but also for foreigners, Moscow is primarily associated with Red Square. It has a long, interesting history. For example, the Kremlin was not always red. It was painted white until the end of the 19th century. There's also a cemetery on Red Square, where not only Soviet but also foreign politicians are buried, as well as the first man in space, Yuri Gagarin. Let me cite some famous lines from Eugene Onegin, written by Pushkin. Moscow, how much within that sound there lies, to make a Russian's heart awake. How many echoes does it give and take? And here's another citation for you, but now from Forbes magazine. According to Forbes, Moscow has the most billionaires, 84 to be exact. Moscow is almost 900 years old, but it's constantly being modernized. At this time, over 12 million people live in Moscow, but only 2% of them are native Muscovites. It's time for us to leave the most populated part of the European part of Russia and move east to the Asian part. We're flying to Irkutsk, the pearl of Russia. We have to fly 3,224 miles and cross 5 time zones. It's 3 p.m. in Irkutsk now, while in Kaliningrad it's only 9 in the morning. The day is just beginning. Irkutsk is located on the banks of the Angara River, and it is the capital of Eastern Siberia. It is the 6th largest city in Siberia with a population of 600,000 people. The Baikal Railway is located here, and it was part of the Trans-Siberian Railway until 1956. Lake Baikal is the largest storage of fresh water on the planet, and its water is close to be distilled. It is the deepest lake with the most transparent water on the planet. These crustaceans serve as a biological filter that purifies the water of Lake Baikal. The underwater world of Lake Baikal is very rich in its inhabitants, fish, microorganisms, and plants. Currently, more than 2,600 species of animals and more than 1,000 species of plants live in the waters of the lake. The population of the Baikal region mainly consists of Russians and Burats. Shamanism is one of the main religions in Buryatia and the Irkutsk region. In sacred places, you can see installed pillars, serge, where people tie ribbons of different colors. Shamanism is based on belief and spirits and the cult of ancestor veneration. In summer, the water temperature in Lake Baikal reaches an average of 53 degrees, but it's a great temperature for a dip after a hot Russian sauna. At the local market, you will find cedar nuts and various products from them. Here, you can also try different types of jam, for example, from pine cones. And there's a great selection of seafood as well. If you like omega-3, this place is for you. And we are moving further east. We are flying to one of the most mysterious islands of the modern world. It is located in the Kuril Islands. We are flying to Itrup Island. It took us 2 days to get there. It was not easy to travel to the eastern border of Russia. First, we flew to Khabarovsk, which is located on the Amur River. People here must really love reading. Here at the bus stops, there are shelves with books. Then we flew to Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk, where we first learned that there live Russified Koreans who were left there by the Japanese after the Second World War. Finally, we arrived to Irkutsk, a border area where one needs a special pass to enter. The Kuril Islands are a big puzzle and full of mystery, both natural and historical. Everything boils and rages here. There are 20 volcanoes on the island, with 9 of them active. Here are many hot springs where one can even cook a hot meal, but very carefully, because the water temperature reaches from 78 to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. There are many waterfalls and lakes on the island, but it is especially generously endowed with hot mineral springs, which is one of the exotic attractions for tourists. And due to their unique healing properties, they are called white gold. Indeed, everyone enjoys this place. The Kuril Islands have an interesting history. They belonged to Russia from the beginning of the 18th century until Russia ceded the islands to Japan in the middle of the 19th century. After World War II in 1945, the islands became Soviet territory by decision of the Big Three. The Kuril Islands are home to Japanese military tunnels carved out of the rock before World War II. This is a single engineering complex with a huge number of tunnels, but the most mysterious tunnels are located here on Irkutsk, on the coast of Kamchatka Bay. It was here in 1941 when a Japanese fleet left to strike at Pearl Harbor. They say it was also here where there was a lab where monstrous scientific research was carried out. It is also believed that the Japanese were also developing nuclear weapons here. All the tunnels on the island were carved by Koreans and Chinese. After the completion of the work, the workers were put on a barge and drowned not far from this bay. Here we are turning the page on the sad events and beginning a new chapter dedicated to the beautiful. One of the wonders of Irkutsk Island is the white rocks rising on the coast of the Sea of Irkutsk. This is an incredibly beautiful creation of nature. They stretch only 17 miles along the coast. They're made of porous volcanic glass, and their green headgear makes them just fabulous. Unfortunately, because of the Pacific Ocean on the other coast, fog is a frequent guest here. And not all tourists are lucky enough to see these unique rocks truly white. The contrast of white cliffs on a black sand beach makes this place magical and magnetic. This black sand is titanium magnetite, and it turns any magnet into a hedgehog. We stayed an extra day to enjoy the local hospitality and fresh fish soup cooked over an open flame on the beach. We are leaving the Kuril Islands and moving to the northeast of Russia. We are flying to the Kamchatka Peninsula, namely to the central city of the Kamchatka region, Petropavlovsk-Kamchatskiy. Kamchatka is located just 55 miles from Alaska. When we landed on the edge of the earth, we were overwhelmed by emotions and did not even realize then about the paradox of Kamchatka. It is here, at the end of the world, where everything just begins. This is where a new day begins. This is where Russia begins. England, Belgium, and Portugal can easily fit on the territory of Kamchatka. This is the land of volcanoes and geysers. One of our goals was to climb a volcano. Volcanoes occupy about 40% of the area of the entire peninsula. Climbing volcano Mutnovsky was just training for a serious volcano like Avachinsky, which is 9,000 feet. Avachinsky volcano is one of the most active volcanoes on the peninsula. The climb is quite strenuous and requires some preparation. The closer to the top, the more snow, ice, fog, and strong wind you encounter. The last 2,300 feet of the climb was especially steep and difficult due to loose fragments of volcanic rock, and the last 260 feet was the most challenging. One needs to hold a rope to climb to the top. Our climb up took 13 hours. It was so cool to see the crater of an active volcano and even lie on it to warm up. And it took us just 3.5 hours to go down. The descent was much easier and more fun. Unfortunately, we never managed to see a single bear. But if there are no bears, there are huskies, sled dogs that require great physical exertion every day. The population of Kamchatka consists of mainly Russians and Koraks. Koraks are the indigenous population of the northern part of the peninsula. The number of Koraks in Russia is only about 7,000 people. And the Pacific Ocean welcomed us with excellent weather and gifted us with an unforgettable experience. Being on Kamchatka, we could not help but visit the fish market and taste the seafood, such as fish, oysters, sea urchins, and, of course, some caviar. Our trip is coming to an end, having traveled over 6,000 miles, taking off 14 times. We are returning home to the city of Izhevsk. Our republic is small but mighty. Udmurtia is located in the Urals in the east of the European part of Russia. There are two official languages, Russian and Udmurt. Udmurtia is rich in oil and peat. But most of all, Udmurtia is famous for its people. Tchaikovsky was born here, Kalashnikov worked here, and many world champions and Olympic champions grew up here. And this is all Udmurtia, a small part of a large country that stretches from Kaliningrad to Kamchatka.